Join Yvette Walker every Tuesday at 4 o'clock p.m. on KMET ABC News Radio, 1490 AM, FM 98.1, and Internet KMET TV for the Southern California Business Report. The show is dedicated to highlighting successful businesses and the individuals behind them. Yvette interviews the incredible people managing these enterprises that range from awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations. The Southern California Business Report, Tuesdays at 4 o'clock p.m. Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining the Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free KMET live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. A huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. You know, as always, I love you. And to our special advisory committee, Bill Morris of UCI School of Business, Diane Cavallo, and Camila Rubio. Thank you so much. Don't forget to check out the Jay Kaplan Show, also on KMET on Fridays at 3. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Manuel Zavala, founder and CEO of Student Hires, a former computer science teacher who spearheaded a company aimed at connecting students with K-12 engagement and valuable job opportunities for university students. Manuel Zavala is the founder and CEO of Student Hires, an education company focused on creating and connecting students with valuable job opportunities. Manuel came up with the concept of Student Hires while working towards his bachelor's degree at the University of California Riverside. During his time at UCR, Manuel balanced the life of a struggling college student with the life of a high school computer science teacher. With the help of many mentors, he was able to return to his hometown of San Bernardino to teach on a part-time basis while attending college. After gaining 4 years of high school teaching experience, he made the leap to focus solely on Student Hires in October of 2021. Now, Student Hires has been focused on collaborating with K-12 schools and districts, colleges and universities, as well as community employers to create valuable job opportunities for local college and university students. Thank you so much for joining us today, Manuel.
Definitely. Thank you for having me, Yvette.
Okay, so of course, as you know, one of my first questions to all of our guests is to please walk us through your journey on what prompted you, what led you to where you are today as the founder and CEO of Student Hires.
Okay, so I'd say day one actually began when I first dropped out of college. So something that wasn't included in that bio was me dropping out of college. I actually started my 4-year university journey at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, one of the top engineering schools in California. So when I had graduated high school, I actually went straight to Cal Poly. And as someone who was always interested in technology and computers, I felt it was perfect to go into computer engineering. At the time, what I realized as the years went by, especially during my first and second year at the school, is that I wasn't at all prepared for not only the workload, but just in terms of the habits I was developing. There were a lot of negative habits that I developed throughout high school, which, I may have overlooked. And obviously in high school, you're still able to maintain good grades without necessarily trying as hard as you do or need to at the university level. So when I was going through year 1 and 2, it was a very difficult time. Learning how to program about in 3 different languages, learning how to code apps, all while, trying to understand who you are and your place in the universe, to be quite frank. So, as a student who was getting new and getting into college, I'd say it definitely took a toll on me. And being 4 hours away from home, as you talked about my hometown of San Bernardino, it was tough. And honestly, just being in that atmosphere, a very competitive atmosphere, eventually led to me dropping out of the school. So I'd say that would be day one as to where my journey took place, was that moment where I decided to drop out of school. And I actually came back to my hometown and lived with my mom when I returned back.
Okay, so let's get into it. Then you came up with the concept of student hires. Can you please share with us and our audience what exactly is student hires?
Sure. So, Student Hires is an education company focused on creating job opportunities and connecting students with those job opportunities as well. So, when I first dropped out of college, I was blessed enough when I had returned back, I actually started looking for a job right away. Because of my programming experience and my web development experience, at an early age, I started when I started attending Cal Poly, I immediately started looking for a job. Now, when I was looking for jobs, believe it or not, I was looking at on Craigslist at the time, which is probably a little outdated. I was fortunate enough to be able to find something that worked with my skill set and was an entry level position. And these positions are out there, but I think what students run into is the situation where they think any job will do. So they might end up working at McDonald's, they might end up working for another fast food location or something that honestly does not relate to the career path that they want at all. So when I had first dropped out, my initial thought was, hey, I need to find something that is definitely related to my career path so that I can keep improving. And regardless of dropping out of college, I still want to make sure I have that professional experience developed so that I ultimately have a backup. So that's really where it stemmed from was me realizing, hey, a lot of students do fall into this trap of, hey, I'm just going to get any job to make ends meet. They might have families they have to support and they need the wage. But what they aren't realizing is that by participating in these jobs, a great example that I like to use is Amazon warehouse. While it is great, you're able to make money and possibly feed your family. At the same time, that warehouse work isn't necessarily going to correspond to your vision of becoming an educator or your vision of becoming a computer programmer, right? So that's time that you could be using for an opportunity that actually relates to what you want to study. And that's really where it started out.
Right. So it sounds like an educational opportunity cost, right? When you're talking about how you're investing your time, that's a very, very well thought out way of looking at it and interpreting it for students, especially, if they're looking for a specific field. So in addition to dropping out of college, what would you say inspired you to pursue this new concept of student hires?
Well, as I started working, I was fortunate enough to get that entry level job in web development when I first dropped out of college. So, although I wasn't attending college at the time, it really started with this lady named Elena in Ukaipa. So, I was in Ukaipa at the time with my mom. Elena was honestly a community employer. There's tons of community employers out there. And she had listed this job on Craigslist for an entry level web designer. So I come to this meeting and, I only had a little bit of experience at the time. And I say, hey, Elena, like, I'm a student, I'm enrolling back into community college. I don't have the most experience, but here's what I have. And honestly, her, along with this guy named Cage at the time, who was working there as well, they just took a shot on me. And that's really where it started to stick with me is that, like, hey, honestly, if it wasn't for those two people and realizing, not only my potential, but just being willing to take that chance, then, my entire career outlook, like me even being here with you today, wouldn't have been possible if they had not provided that opportunity. And then as I had that job, eventually, of course, it led to more jobs, me gaining more experience, me exploring different avenues like marketing and education. It all came back to that same fact of someone being willing to give me that opportunity. And ultimately, I just wanted to pay it forward. So during my time at UCR, which was in 2017 when I first transferred to UCR, is when I really started digging into this concept of, hey, how can I provide opportunities for local college and university students who desperately need the work, who need to be able to, make a wage and survive, and do all of that on a flexible schedule while balancing college. So for me at the time, since I was involved in marketing and web development, I had jobs which were work from home, and these were the best to me because I could make $20 an hour while attending college when other people are having trouble even getting that minimum wage at certain locations. So what I had started to do was I started developing my own web development company where we would do web development and graphic design projects. And I would honestly just outsource a lot of the work to college students that I was meeting on campus. So I was at Crafton Hills College where I met some students that I would work with. I think around 2015 was the time where we first started doing some projects, like as a group of students. and it really just developed over time. But yeah.
That's remarkable. And so, how did being a computer science teacher kind of fit into the big scheme of things in your effort?
So in 2017, when I transferred to UCR, I was still working on this business of, hey, how do I connect students with job opportunities? And in my case, it was in marketing at the time. So I was connecting them with different marketing opportunities, going out of my way to meet business owners. And when I was at UCR, I actually attended a San Bernardino job fair. So I don't remember who put on the job fair, but I just saw it one day and it was like, hey, we're holding this job fair in San Bernardino. Given that I'm from San Bernardino, I was like, hey, I should go, take a look and see, who I'm able to meet. So I actually went there not looking for a job, but looking to connect with the employers because everyone goes with their booths. And it's an easy way to see, hey, who's on top of their game in terms of marketing, and where might I be able to offer a solution for them through the use of college and university students. So take, for example, a smaller organization who doesn't necessarily have the funds to hire a full-time staff or a full service firm who charges a lot of money usually. The solution in this case, in my mind, was always, hey, we have talented students at university who are desperately looking for work. Why not just pair the two together so that we could get this project done for you? So I go to this job fair and I'm walking around booth to booth to booth, and I end up coming across a booth for Pal Charter Academy, which is located in San Bernardino. So once again, this was an opportunity in my mind to see, hey, I came up to the booths and I met this guy named Edward. His name is Edward Brantley. Hopefully he ends up watching this video, but I actually saw him.
Hello, Edward.
Yeah, so I actually saw him the other day too at another educational event. But I meet Edward, and Edward's at the booth, and he's telling me about Pal Charter Academy and the great things that they're doing at their charter school. So Pal Charter Academy is a charter school in San Bernardino, California, for a lot of disadvantaged students. These are students who may not have any other alternatives for schooling. They may have been kicked out of schools, whatever it may be. People like to think of these as continuation schools. But honestly, the work that they were doing at Pal Charter Academy was, in my opinion, a lot more deep than it is in public schools than what you'll find traditionally. So I was talking to Edward about this, and Edward, at the end of the conversation, says, you know what? We might be looking for someone like you. Like, you should sit down with our CEO. And at the time, I'm like, well, what is this about? Like, I was like more interested in meeting Edward, talking to him about some of the plans that I had. But somehow I end up scheduling a meeting with the CEO of Pal Charter Academy. And it turns out this guy's name is Mr. Radin. So hopefully you or anyone watching is familiar with Dwayne Radin from Pal Charter Academy. He is the CEO of the school, and I had the opportunity to come in with me and meet with him as a young college student. Fortunately for me, it turns out that I actually had a connection to Mr. Radin that I didn't anticipate going in. I played youth football for like my entire life, and Dwayne Radin is actually one of the initial founders of some football programs in San Bernardino, California. So
Oh, wow.
I was participating in his programs at the time, and I saw his name, and I was like, I could have swore I used to play with someone with that last name, because in football you always go by their last name. And it was our running back, and our running back was insane. I kid you not. His son would stiff arm everyone. So he was an amazing player. And so I brought it up. I was like, hey, you're not this person's father by any chance? And he's like, of course. So we had this conversation, and we had that initial connection off the bat, and close out the meeting. And Mr. Radin was helping me obtain my teaching credential to teach computer science at Pal Charter Academy. So he actually showed me the process of like, hey, here's what you got to do to obtain that preliminary credential, and get enrolled through the Cal State San Bernardino education program, and all of these different things. So really just another person that was willing to kind of guide me through the process and say, look, here's what you need to do. You do it, and you'll become a teacher, like, I kid you not, within like 6 months, I think was the time frame. Maybe a year, 6 months to a year. So we went through that together, and again, he was one of those people to give me opportunity as well. But that's kind of where it started. My computer science teaching journey was teaching at Pal Charter Academy in San Bernardino. So while I was attending UCR, I would go back all the way back to San Bernardino. It's probably like a 40-minute drive with traffic. And in between classes, I was going back and forth to make this teaching job work on a part-time basis. Fortunately, he could accommodate me given that it's a charter school setting on a part-time basis. So it really started from there.
Wow. So he was basically kind of the genesis of showing you all the levers of how to, move forward and really gain traction in this effort.
Yeah, yeah, he did. And again, he was like a mentor to me. He was a guide, when honestly, there's not too many people that you're going to meet that are willing to kind of walk you through the process of things that you need to do, especially as a younger person, right? You're kind of lost. You don't necessarily know the route to take. He was someone that definitely took me from point A to point B.
Wow, that's wonderful. And so how long did you work on the student hires concept before actually jumping into it?
Well, I'd say I started in 2015, really, when I started those marketing efforts and connecting students with jobs, because that's really where the journey originated. While it wasn't focused on education at the time like it is now, it still came from that concept of, hey, how do I connect students with job opportunities so that they can make money and still gain professional experience that actually looks good on a resume and in their professional portfolio? And in 2017, when I had met Mr. Radin, during our meeting, I actually told him about my vision for the company and some of the things that I wanted to do. So in 2018, after I taught there for a year and gained some experience with him, he gave us the opportunity to be employed as a company rather than just me as a sole teacher. So at this point was when we first started our first educational program at Pal Charter Academy, where I was able to hire other teachers to come in and teach at the school and making it work with their school schedules at UCR also.
Wow. So were they also other college students as well, it sounds like?
Yep, so they were all college students. At the time, it was very difficult to make it work because I was balancing the school, I was balancing being a teacher, I was balancing managing, employees for the first time. And it was people who I knew at the college, who I knew were passionate about education. And honestly, they just wanted to become teachers. So they're already studying to become teachers. And again, they just need the shot to be able to make it happen. So the idea was that we would bring them in to host daily classes for the students, and they were all based on career technical education and computer science.
Wow. Perfect fit all around, sounds like.
Yeah, it's crazy how all the puzzle pieces seem to fit together.
That's beautiful. And so, knowing that all the puzzle pieces fit together, can you please share what some of the largest hurdles were for you kind of as you navigated this?
So, tons of hurdles along the way. I'd say the number one was honestly graduating college. Given that I was balancing at all of this at the time, I always prioritized my work, to be honest. So, in my mind, a lot of the classes that are being taught in the education system, to be as blunt as I can be, are honestly pointless. Like there's a ton of classes that they will put you through that are mandatory required to earn your degree that do not necessarily relate to at all the skill set that you will need to actually perform a job in the workplace. So I think there's a disconnect between a lot of different degrees. I'm not saying this is the case for every degree, but while I was at UCR, I was actually studying business. So imagine studying business, there's so many different courses. And in my case, there were plenty of courses that I just did not see the connection at all to how they would relate to what I wanted to do and the vision of the business that I wanted to breed.
Well, it sounds to me like you could develop a whole course for the university just on what it is that you're doing.
Do you mean in terms of being able to connect students with jobs at a
Yes,
university?
absolutely.
Exactly.
And it's more along the lines of, collaboration, entrepreneurship, thinking outside the box and making those connections, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mean to say again, not all courses are this way and not all degrees are this way, but I'd say for business, definitely there are a few key courses that I'd say you need, and the rest of them just seem to kind of be filler courses. And honestly, again, given that I was focused mainly on work experience, I was also focused on extracurriculars. Extracurriculars are a big thing that honestly, if I could have focused solely on extracurriculars during the time, I would have done that because at UCR, they have an entrepreneurship program just like they do at Cal State San Bernardino and Laverne. But their entrepreneurship program allowed me to really develop this concept as early as the summer of 2017, I believe, is when I participated in what's known as their EPIC program, which is basically it's kind of like an incubator, but you go through a competition style format where you're able to pitch your business and you have mentors constantly kind of guiding you like, hey, here's how you refined it and here's how you make it work. So those types of things that I was able to participate in that were outside of my required coursework are really, I think, what changed my outlook.
Wow. And so what other extracurriculars would you say kind of inspired you or nudged you forward? Or do you wish you had the opportunity to maybe try out?
Um, Pretty much every single extracurricular related to entrepreneurship programs. There's a lot of different organizations throughout the Inland Empire and on these college and university campuses that they're constantly putting out flyers like, hey, come to our events, come pitch your business, come share your idea with us. And honestly, a lot of students aren't taking advantage of it. But for me, it was those programs that again made the difference. So one of them was that Epic program. There's another one at UCR called the Launchpad program, which again kind of allows you to develop your business concept. And then also, I was a member of a fraternity. So being a member of a fraternity or sorority is a great opportunity to just develop your leadership skills across the board. That's really where I had, in my opinion, kind of like a full set of employees, although they were my brothers. I had to figure out how to manage a group of 10 plus guys and get them all to put on fundraising events for the public. I had to figure out how to connect them with local organizations. So I was doing that at the time while I was doing the entrepreneurship stuff, while I was teaching. It was all over the place.
It sounds like a very full plate. So what would you say to college students today that are kind of trying to decide, how can I do to really implement additional skills that I know will be useful in the area that I want to pursue moving forward?
So if they are fortunate enough to know the area that they want to pursue, that's usually the tough point. The sticking point is, hey, what do I even do? So many people get stuck there. If you don't know what to do, or the first step is to do something. You just got to find some kind of opportunity that is available to you based on the skill set that you currently have. So while I was dropping out of college, my skill set was still computer programming and web development. I'm not saying it's the greatest skill set ever, but at least I had some skills to offer an employer and go ahead and say, hey, I can do this for you. I can add some value to your company, right? So you always want to frame it in that way. So for students who do know the area, like let's say they're interested in education, really keep your eyes out and do a lot of research as to the different educational organizations that are in the ecosystem that you are currently at. So if you're at UCR, right, I'm going to start looking at education organizations all throughout Riverside. I will literally call them, and this is what I used to teach in my classes. I'll call this person and say, hey, I'm a student attending UCR. Do you have any opportunities for this? I can do this. So one of my memories of this was during one of our computer science classes when I was teaching at Beaumont High School. It was Zoom based for a year, and during the Zoom I told my students, hey, this is how easy it is to find a job, and no one will tell you this, and no one will show you how to do this. So here, we're going to do it together on Zoom. Pulled up my phone. Fortunately, another one of my students was interested in cybersecurity, and he had cybersecurity skills. Super talented high school student, and he showed me a company that he wanted to reach out to. So I said, hey, give me their number. They're called Blackburn Security. I, dial their number. I'm like, hey, this is Manuel. I attend UCR, and I know this, this, and this about cybersecurity. So I'm just having a conversation with the guy, and I'm like, hey, by any chance, do you have any internship opportunities or job opportunities that I might be able to apply to? And he literally said, yeah, sure, just send me an email, and I'll reach out back to you. So what did I do? I said, hey, person who's interested in this company, cybersecurity, go ahead and do what he just said. Like, all you have to do is send him an email. So he sends him an email. I kid you not, the next summer, or I think 2 summers later, when he was a little older, he got an internship at that cybersecurity company, just because he showed a little tiny bit of initiative. It takes what, 3 minutes to have that phone conversation. But that's the difference between, students who are making things happen and students who are kind of just floating through college. Is one, they're proactive and they just have the courage to, pick up the phone or even to go in person and talk to these people.
Right. And I really like the way you framed it when you look at it as an ecosystem, right? Because it's not a freestanding or a lone standing entity or organization. It is indeed an ecosystem, and viewing it from that level, I think gives students a better idea of the interconnectivity, the opportunities, and the different pathways that can be pursued from effort to effort. And I love that you got on the phone and showed them just how easy it is, right? And eliminate that first barrier, the fear, right, of just reaching out. That is one of the greatest fears of anybody when they're, cold calling somebody. And that's, you made it so easy. And so what was the response the moment you got off the phone with them?
They loved it, honestly. I think, that's a conversation in itself. Your ability to connect with your students as an educator. But they love the activity. And for them, it was a lot more relevant than me just saying, hey, you need to learn this about cybersecurity. You need to learn this about computer science. It's a direct, tangible skill or thing that they could do and that they know they could do once they graduate high school, that they could go ahead and, do that to get a job or internship.
That's just absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. For those listening, I'm Yvette Walker on Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV, talking to Manuel Zavala, founder and CEO of Student Hires, a former computer science teacher who spearheaded a company aimed at connecting students with K through 12 engagement and valuable job opportunities for university students when we return.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu. Ontario International Airport is on to a better way to fly with over 65 daily nonstop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Every 2 seconds, someone needs a blood transfusion. Be on the giving side. Livestream Blood Bank supports patients in 80 Southern California hospitals. Call 1-800-TRY-GIVING for more information and to set an appointment.
City of Hope is driven to making a difference in the lives of people with cancer and diabetes. We accomplish this by conducting innovative research and providing outstanding care. If you or a loved one has received a cancer diagnosis, go to cityofhope.org to learn more about how our innovative approach could change your outcome.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Welcome back. For those listening, I'm Yvette Walker on Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV, talking to Manuel Zavala, founder and CEO of Student Hires, a former computer science teacher who spearheaded a company aimed at connecting students with K through 12 engagement and valuable job opportunities for university students. Thank you again for being with us today, Manuel.
Of course.
So before the break, we talked a little bit about how Student Hires came to be, what some of the hurdles were, and what the inspiration was for this new wonderful business that you spearheaded. So now let's talk a little bit about, what the response has been and what you see moving forward. Can you talk a little bit about what your students in the computer sciences or other students that you've been able to work with, what is their feedback to you about Student Hires?
Sure. So as I was saying, I started teaching in 2017, and that's really where Student Hires started transitioning towards an education company. Given that I was teaching at the time and I had access to my students, I would always tell them about my visions for the company and kind of how it pieces into what I was teaching them on a regular basis. Given that I was a computer science teacher, specifically, I would fall under the category of career technical education, which, for those of you who aren't familiar, career technical education is basically education that is more so focused on connecting students with jobs and actually getting them the skill sets that they need to be placed into those jobs. So I had the opportunity to teach at Pal Charter Academy as a career technical education instructor. And then in 2019, I transferred over to Beaumont High School as a computer science teacher as well. But they have an entire career technical education department where they're really trying to drive home this point of like, hey, how do we connect these students with jobs and how do we actually prepare them so they're able to get those jobs regardless of if they want to go to college or not. So during my time as a teacher at Beaumont High School, I think is where I really started to realize the importance of peer-to-peer mentoring and connection amongst educators and students. For myself, it was very easy for me after I gained that initial experience at Pal Charter Academy to connect with my computer science students. And this is purely because, in my opinion, one, not only do I look like the students that I'm serving, but two, I'm actually a little younger, right? And at the time I was 22, 23 years old. So the students, in high school, they're not so far off. They're 14 to 17, 14 to 18. So there's a pretty close connection there. So for them to be able to see that me, only 23 years old, was able to attain these different things and is making progress towards these different visions that they have, it really allows the students to honestly realize like, hey, like there's someone actually doing it. There's someone in my network now that I have access to that can actually provide me with opportunity. And I would always tell them this, hey, like when you're done graduating, reach out to me. And if anyone sees this, same thing, like reach out to me. There's jobs waiting for you. And I just want to be able to be the person that can connect those students who I've already served and the future students that we are able to serve with these job opportunities. But really, it started at Beaumont High School, realizing that on a day-to-day basis, students were able to connect to me more and just analyzing like, hey, what is the difference between me and a teacher who has 10 years of experience who might not be making that same connection. So it's some of these different things that I touched on, and they're actually a big topic in the education field right now.
Very nice. That is wonderful, especially that peer to peer and that tight, age gap that you're looking at. Because, like you said, when they see someone within their sphere of, peers, it makes it a much more tangible opportunity and vision for them to want to act on, it sounds like.
Exactly. So even just the ability to, aspire to be something. There's so many students who don't know what to aspire to do. They don't have any inspirations. And part of it is because we as educators and we as people in general honestly aren't aspiring enough ourselves, right? Like we get caught up in our daily lives and things may come up, but at the end of the day, we have to set the role model for the students. So if you have a teacher who's just going to work, they come to class and then they go home and they end their day, that's not something that a student is going to look at and be like, hey, I want to be like that teacher, right? They're going
Right.
to be like, this seems like a boring life. Like, why would I want to do that? So really, it's that peer-to-peer mentoring and connection, and it's also just being willing to like project your true self and show them all these different things that you are undertaking in addition to your normal career.
Right. And showing them that you care, right? Because you have to care to not only inspire yourself, but to want to inspire others.
Definitely, at the heart of education is really showing students that you care. If you're unable to make a one-on-one relationship with one of your students, it's up to the educator to find out, whatever path they need to take to get that relationship or to, gain that rapport. But ultimately, it does come down to that. Students who know that the educator or the person that they're looking up to actually cares about them are way more likely to respond in terms of the work that they're doing in class, in terms of the extra work that they need to do to be able to do some of these other things or get those jobs. They'll just show more effort and inspiration across the board.
Absolutely. And so I know we recently spoke and you were passing off files here and passing off files there and your ear was pulled in this direction and that direction. There's a lot of excitement going on. Can you talk a little bit about what that effort was about and how it unfolded?
Sure. So when I stopped teaching in 2021 is when we gained our first pilot program with Ontario Montclair School District to host an after school program. Now, this is primarily what we're focused on as a company right now is after school and summer programs led by college students. So again, if we're going back to that ecosystem, think of all the different players that you've seen in relation to the after school scene. There, in my opinion, is nothing like what we are trying to accomplish with student hires. So Ontario Montclair was willing to give us our first pilot program, which was an after school program that is currently serving 103 students at one of their elementary schools. And the entire program, again, is run by local college and university students. So that's what we started when I had first quit teaching. Given that I now had a set of employees that I had to manage, there was no other opportunity to kind of balance being a teacher and pursuing the business. But recently, this month actually, so on Monday, which was yesterday, they gave us our second program. So they were satisfied with the results of the first, our pilot program, and kind of what we foresee for the future, that they gave us an additional elementary school. So at this additional elementary school, this is kind of why you saw me during our last conversation bouncing around. We brought on a bunch of new employees. So now we currently have a total of 10 employees, again, all attending local colleges and universities. And now they are servicing 2 school sites for this school district. And they're actually going on right now, to be honest.
I love it. I love it. And so when you talk about an ecosystem and pulling from local universities, I mean, how much more sustainable can you get? I'm looking at the sustainability factor. That's just remarkable.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a big topic right now. It's, how do we deal with this labor shortage that we're experiencing because of the pandemic? And how do we create a pipeline of future educators? So if you listen to everything that I just described with student hires, to me, when I've envisioned this whole company for the past, 5 years since we started in education, it seems like the perfect puzzle piece that will honestly solve, or, at least contribute to some of these different issues that we've been discussing. It's a solution for that pipeline of educators. So we train all of these program leaders and site coordinators in our programs to become future teachers, or at least be involved in education in some way. And then the goal is also to transfer them into the same schools and districts that we're serving. So to give you an example, we started with 3 program leaders when we started our first program. 2 of those former program leaders are now site coordinators overseeing the entire school site. So after receiving the training, learning how to teach, learning how to manage a classroom, they are now learning, okay, how do I actually manage an entire after school program, manage other program leaders, and again, pass on that idea of, hey, how do we create the most opportunity for the families that we're serving?
Wow, that in itself is just completely inspirational. Thank you for sharing that. And so, can you talk a little bit about the universities that you're currently working with, and talk about how you were able to connect with them?
Sure. So right now, we don't have any direct partnerships with universities. That is something that we definitely want to make happen. But we do post regularly on Handshake, which is pretty much the platform that every college and university is using right now. Handshake is basically an Indeed, a job platform that is only available to the students at their school. So for us, we had to do a lot of paperwork and reaching out to these local universities just to get approved to post on Handshake. But also, we get a lot of students just through Indeed. So there's tons of students who are out there looking for work. When we post program leader positions, we get like 300 plus applicants, and the majority of them are all college students, like all just looking for an opportunity. Again, might not have an insane level of experience, but they're passionate about education and ultimately just want to make a difference.
Right, absolutely. So, in a nutshell, can you describe what your mission is and talk a little bit about your efforts in how it is that you're looking to expand?
Sure. So, our mission as a company and my own mission is to connect and create as many valuable job opportunities for students as possible. As you can see, we're already creating the opportunity by going out of our way to find the schools and districts who are looking to bring in these programs, and coordinating, finding students who are willing to, kind of work in these programs. But also, part of the broader picture is that Student Hires, as an educational company, will create pipelines throughout, many different ecosystems of organizations, of schools and districts, and colleges and universities, for future educators to kind of prepare to transition to the educational workforce. So by participating and growing through our programs, the idea again is that we'll end up transferring them into the same schools or districts they serve, unless they're going to grow with us because we are a startup company. and really just give that school or district, again, that pipeline of future teachers. But eventually, we do plan to expand into many more industries. So we don't want to focus purely on, hey, we're creating this teacher pipeline, but really creating a pipeline also for community employers. So to give you an example, we had a project that we recently participated in with the Assistance League of Riverside. So shout out to them. Great organization doing amazing work in the Riverside area. They're a nonprofit. And they reached out to us through a reference and said, hey, we have these insane IT needs that none of us can do. We don't want to hire a huge company that's going to charge us a bunch of things. We just need a little bit of work here and there. So what we did was we put together a team of students from various colleges. One of them was Cal State San Bernardino, Mount San Jacinto College, and then the last one, I forget what it was, but we put together this team of 3 IT students who are all, gaining their IT bachelor's degree, and we conducted an IT audit for them. Obviously, it wasn't an audit that is to the level of a professional firm who goes through all the checks and balances, but at the end of the day, we got the work done and the IT work that organization needed to better function as a business through the use of connecting, these students with the job opportunities. So now those same students who we have the opportunity to work with, they can go back to these future jobs that they're applying to these internships, whatever it may be, and say, look, I participated with student hires in this project. I'm capable of doing work in the IT sector. And then at the same time, we're in talks now about, hey, how can we create a pipeline for that specific organization in general? Maybe it's a connection we need to make at UCR. Maybe it's a connection that we need to make at another local college where we integrate these programs directly into the business, because that's honestly how education should be. It shouldn't be, hey, student, you're taking classes, go find out how to get a job yourself. It should be, hey, thank you for enrolling in our university, paying $40,000 a year. I have a job waiting for you on year 1, right? So that's the level we're trying to get to at some point, is really to be able to integrate with these different colleges and universities. And that's our plan for expansion as well, is bringing on someone who can dedicate solely their time to reaching out to local colleges and universities, as well as K through 12 schools and districts, to bring these programs to life. Every program that we're able to bring to life will ultimately create as many as between 5 and 10 jobs for students. And that's just one program. Right now, across California and honestly across the world, because of what happened during the pandemic within education, there are a ton of schools looking for these types of programs. And in my opinion, because of the ecosystem that is currently there, as we touched on before, they're used to seeing organizations that have been around for 30 to 50 years. So when they see a newer organization like Student Hires, there's a little bit of a barrier to be able to say, hey, can you guys really create what you're saying you're trying to create? But ultimately, I think our work at OMSD speaks for itself, and kind of what we've done so far, simply creating, 10 opportunities for local students. You never know what those opportunities can turn into. One of those opportunities could mean that one of the people who end up working with us ends up creating thousands of opportunities as they grow, right? So the value of compounding opportunity, in my mind, is very overlooked. And we just want to play a part in that whole thing.
That is remarkable. And I can imagine the tremendous edge that these students that are able to work on these projects that are in their actual field of, the field that they're pursuing, gives them a tremendous edge when they go out and actually apply for these jobs in the workforce.
Exactly. It's a huge edge, like you said. Again, let's go back to the example of working at McDonald's. No shame on McDonald's. I love chicken nuggets and I used to eat it all the time. But ultimately, if you have 2 students who are looking to become educators and they're applying to one of those organizations within the educational ecosystem over here in the Inland Empire, they're both going to be submitting the same application. One of their resumes is going to say, hey, I worked at McDonald's for a year or 2 years. And then they're going to try and justify it in the interview and say, hey, I was just trying to make ends meet for my family. And then the other student's going to have a project from Student Hires that says, hey, I actually led a classroom. I manage my own class. I'm ready to become an educator at your district or at your company or whatever it may be.
Right. That's wonderful. And this sounds like a silly question, but I have to ask you, what inspires you to pursue Student Hires efforts? And what has the feedback from your student hires been, and from the parents as well, I would imagine?
Sure. So on a daily basis, honestly, I'm inspired seeing all the employees that we have so far. They give me the motivation that I need to be off my ass and constantly doing things just so that I can ensure that those opportunities are available for them. So that's been a big thing keeping me going lately, is just realizing like, hey, there's so many different people that are relying on me to kind of fit all of these pieces together so that we're able to keep creating opportunity. Because the truth is, once a program ends, if we don't do a good enough job, like a school district could come and say, hey, we're ending the program, and then that means 5 students are out of work and they're looking for the next job. So it really comes down to that, is just, hey, how do I create the most opportunity for the people that are around me, and spread that across. Can you ask the other question again? So
Oh,
in
so and what is the feedback that you've received from those students that have gone through your program, and feedback from parents?
Sure. So in terms of the students who work with us, we've received tremendous feedback in terms of the way that we are managing the company. So in terms of like how we provide them with professional growth opportunities, we hold weekly meetings where they're basically progress meetings where we check in one-on-one with these people and really cover anything ranging from like, hey, what's going on with your school, to, how are you actually performing on the job? And then, so we've received tremendous feedback in terms of the people who work with us, the students. But in terms of the students that we're serving, again, coming back to that idea of peer to peer mentoring and connection, I think they truly see a difference in communicating with program leaders who are of similar age and background to them than they do to an older person who honestly might not even be interested in education. So we've received some good feedback from students. Students are very happy. And we also had the opportunity to do some testimonials from our parents about halfway through our program. So it was near January where we did these testimonials. One of those will be available on our website soon, but if you are connected with me on LinkedIn or any other social media, you've probably seen that video posted out there. To recap it for you, basically, it was a family who was experiencing a speech impediment with their son. So his name is Asael, and he's in one of our programs right now. Given the pandemic, obviously that caused a delay in terms of education for a lot of different students. So for a student who comes from a Spanish-speaking family, the parents speak primarily Spanish. It's obvious that the student is going to get some kind of speech development issues because of what happened. So what they said is that because of our program and the additional support that he's been able to receive from us, that she's noticed the difference in his speech impediment and how he has begun to develop in terms of the English language.
Oh, wow, that is remarkable. So, if you could please share with us how you see students' hires really fitting into the big scheme of things when you look at education, college, university students, and the broader, I guess, business economy and various, career pathways that exist.
Sure. So as we discussed before, I definitely envision student hires being an integral part of every college and university. We'd like to get to the point where, again, coming back to that concept of people enrolling in universities and colleges, there should be a job waiting for them right when they enter the college or university. If we have 2,000 plus education students, at this local college and university who are all trying to become a teacher, why are we not creating an opportunity for them right when they get into college? So we want to be able to not only have those opportunities available for the students so that we can hand them to them as they arrive to the college and as they're going through their educational studies. Now, keep in mind that a lot of education programs do have required work hours that they already have to complete. So this would be a perfect fit. But really communicating with the colleges and universities that, hey, student hires as an organization is really here to support your organizations and all the different initiatives that you have going on, and just be that connection. We really want to bridge the gap again between colleges and universities and K through 12 education.
I mean, student hires, the program, the concept, it seems like a complete no-brainer. Are there existing programs or, businesses that dedicate themselves to what it is that you're doing today?
Yeah, so there's quite a few different organizations. Specifically, what this entire vision of what I've proposed to you, I haven't seen anyone trying to do it to the level that we are doing it, but I did recently enter, I engage in a lot of education chats and, different industry professionals in education talking about these issues that we brought up. And there is an organization called UC Links out of, I forget the college, but there's an organization called UC Links that has a similar concept. So when I met with them and when I saw them, I was like, wow, this is exactly like what I've been building for the the past couple of years. But they do after school programs, and then they coordinate to where they can get the work study through the college or university, so that they're able to pay college students to lead those programs. But even in terms of UC Links, they're struggling with the same issue. Hey, how do we reach a wider audience? How do we make this an integral part of every single college and university? And again, they're only focusing on that after school piece from what I can see. There are some other organizations, like I've seen some do kind of this idea of workforce-based learning. So just going out and interacting with organizations and completing projects for them. But again, Student Hires as an organization, while we are focused on building that teacher pipeline right now, we're really committed to anything that is in the realm of connecting students with job opportunities. So even in terms of the employers, in terms of the schools and districts and colleges and universities, as long as it falls under the realm of opportunity, we want to be involved in that.
Beautiful. So briefly tell us, when is a good time for anyone that's interested in your program, and how can they engage with you and connect?
Definitely. So you can find me on all social media platforms if you just search up my name. In terms of the company, same thing. We're Student Hires pretty much everywhere, every tag. We're probably not on the level we need to be social media wise, but you can also reach out to me directly by emailing me, manuel@studenthires.com, and you can even call me via cell. I'll be available today if you want to have a call, 909-496-7557.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today, Manuel.
Yeah, of course.
All right. And so for everyone listening today, don't forget to look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. And don't forget to download the free live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. Don't miss my interview with Dr. Andreas Kaiser. He is professor and chief of the Division of Colorectal Surgery at City of Hope, one of the largest cancer research and treatment organizations in the United States. As a colorectal surgeon, Dr. Kaiser has extensive experience in robotic surgery and every aspect of even the most complex colorectal diseases. He is well versed in hereditary colorectal cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, functional disorders of the colon and rectum, and benign disorders of the anus. He has become the doctor of choice for challenging cases. Next week, we will have Chief Stringham of Copline, who joined the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department in 1982. As a deputy sheriff trainee, he graduated from the academy in 1983 and went on to work as a deputy in various capacities in multiple units. He began as a module deputy and prowler at the Hall of Justice jail facility. He would later move on to be a bailiff at court services, a patrol deputy, field training officer, jailer, and dispatcher at Industry Station, as well as a background investigator and staff instructor at Training Bureau. In 1997, Chief Stringham promoted to the rank of sergeant and transferred to Temple Station, where he served as a patrol sergeant and a training sergeant. After 3 years, he briefly transferred to Sheriff's Headquarters Bureau as the media relations and training sergeant before being promoted to lieutenant in 2000 and transferring to Lakewood Station. While at the Lakewood Station, he served as a watch commander and detective bureau commander. In 2003, he transferred to Regional Community Policing Institute, where he performed the roles of program director and federal grant administrator for COPS office grants. Chief Stringham transferred to contract law in 2007 as a member of the Office of Public Safety Merger Study Team, and in 2008 moved on to be an executive aide for Leadership and Training Division. Chief Stringham was promoted to captain of County Services Bureau in 2009, where he remained as the unit commander until his retirement in 2015. In 2018, Chief Stringham accepted an offer to return to LASD at the rank of chief. He currently oversees Countywide Services Division, which is comprised of County Services Bureau, Parks Bureau, Community Colleges Bureau, and Community Partnerships Bureau. Chief Stringham has an associate's degree in Administration of Justice and Liberal Arts from Mount San Antonio College and Coastline Community College. He also has a bachelor's degree in vocational training from California State University, Long Beach. He is a graduate of the FBI National Academy class number 222 and of the Cornwell School Leadership Certificate Program. Everyone, don't miss it. We will see you next week.
This has been the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker on KMET 1490 AM, FM 98.1, and ABC News Radio affiliate, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind